Same thing with the unions.
That's right.
They get their little 5%. They get another 2%. They get another 3%, 4%. Then all of a sudden, they're making more money than the people that own the company.
Well, Donald Trump's anti-worker roots are unfortunately showing again in yet another legally questionable move. The president has decided to oust 2 Democratic members of the National Labor Relations Board that he and unfortunately his wealthy allies thought were just too pro-worker. Now, the first woman he ousted was Jennifer Abruzzo, who is the NLRB's general counsel, a position that actually wields a lot of power in the NLRB. The NLRB general counsel has sweeping authority to determine what sorts of cases are prosecuted by the agency, which is responsible for enforcing most private sector US employees' right to unionize or take collective action to improve their working conditions. I want to give you another example of what unions can do in order to protect workers from, let's say, losing their jobs. In fact, I remember prior to Donald Trump getting elected the first time around, there was a Google employee who had written a memo in a Google Doc. It was a company-wide memo in regard to what Google could do to increase the number of female workers in, coding, for instance. And so some people were offended by what he had to write. He cited studies that indicated that women have certain characteristics that are different from men. They tend to be a little more neurotic, yada, yada. Whether or not you believe in those studies, put that aside. The point is he ended up getting fired because his coworkers were offended by it. If you're represented by a union, the union protects you from getting fired over something like that, right? So when Trump got elected, his name was James Damore. He went to the NLRB to make his case against Google, but Trump had stacked the NLRB with anti-worker individuals who basically told him to get lost, okay? So anyway, I give you that information because I think a lot of people sometimes underestimate some of the government agencies that are specifically put in place to look out for the little guy. There aren't many of them. The NLRB happens to be one of them. So Abruzzo, who was appointed by Biden, was willing to scrutinize companies for alleged labor violations, which business elites and rich donors obviously don't like. She prosecuted complaints against Starbucks, Apple, Tesla, the New York Times, Amazon, etc. She also went after non-compete agreements and banned mandatory anti-union meetings. Now, non-compete agreements they're just out of control. So even fast food restaurants have implemented non-compete agreements in order to prevent a worker from taking a job at another fast food company or store where they're offered more money. So the NLRB is important, and doing away with some of the actual warriors on behalf of workers in this government agency is a huge problem. The US Chamber of Commerce accused her of blatantly unlawful overreach, yet really failed to cite what they were talking about. And even though she was supposed to serve until July, her ouster was expected. Biden similarly fired Trump's NLRB general counsel from his first term, management side attorney Peter Robb, on Inauguration Day 4 years ago, a decision that was upheld by a court. But Trump also fired labor-friendly NLRB member Gwynne Wilcox, which was not expected, and there are some real issues with his action there. But before I get to it, I want to get your thoughts so far, Cenk.
Yeah, and I want to get your guys' thoughts. There's a poll in the live chat on this too. Shows live at 6 o'clock Eastern every day. And so in this one, how concerned are you about these firings? Not at all, slightly or extremely. I'm voting extremely for a couple of reasons. Number one, the Wilcox firing is illegal. Here we go again. And totally unnecessary, which we'll explain in a second why it's unnecessary, and even for Trump's purposes. And so MAGA split on this, and I'm fascinated by that because they claim that they're 100% in favor of the average working man. That's like one of the driving forces of MAGA. But I put out a post on X yesterday about making fun of Rand Paul for saying Trump's labor secretary was too pro-labor. I'm like, well, she's the labor secretary.
And again, this is Trump's nominee to serve as labor secretary. Rand Paul came out and said, I intend to vote no on confirming her.
Excuse me, guys. So he said there's at least 15 Republican senators that are gonna vote no because they don't want a labor secretary that represents labor. They want one that represents corporations. But a lot of MAGA people are saying, no, labor equals union and we hate unions. Why? Why do you hate unions? I'll tell you why, because of Republican propaganda for decades telling you that if you collectively organize and you get higher wages and better protections for yourself, that you'll hurt their beloved corporations. So you shouldn't. Unions are bad and ugly, and collectively bargaining is terrible, and the workers should get less, and they should have less protections and less everything. Why? Why? They convince you that, oh, that's why you're gonna lose your job, except that's not why at all. The real reason was corporations cut your jobs and outsource them to Mexico, China, et cetera. Had nothing to do with unions, right?
Exactly.
They were gonna do that no matter what, because it's not close. It's not like, oh, the difference between $15 and $13. Those jobs in Thailand now and Vietnam, et cetera, they pay so much less, not close, right? So my point is, if you're MAGA and you really want to stick up for the average guy, Trump, can you be honest? Can you see straight? Trump has been terrible on this issue, except for his labor secretary.
I know. Which
we support. You see that? That's called being honest and principled, right? But on the NLRB, this is a disaster. So it's gonna make corporations, it's gonna make it so much easier for them to abuse you, to pay you less, to give you less health care, et cetera.
Now let's talk a little bit about the legality of getting rid of Gwen Wilcox, because look, for one, there were already enough vacant seats, so Donald Trump could have easily filled one of those vacant seats with a Republican, but that wasn't good enough. He decided to get rid of Wilcox, and it seems to be an illegal move. So unlike with the general counsel position, the National Labor Relations Act provides that board members are appointed for 5-year staggered terms and may be removed by the president upon notice and hearing for neglect of duty or malfeasance in office, but for no other cause. Obviously, Trump did not cite any specific cause, any example of what Wilcox did wrong, what kind of malfeasance Wilcox might have engaged in, nothing. Wilcox said that in the letter Trump sent Monday night, he wrote that the NLRB hasn't fulfilled its responsibilities to the American people, and he believes he has the right to remove a board member despite the labor law that says they can only be removed for neglect. Wilcox, though, is not backing down. She intends to fight back, and good for Wilcox, because I don't think the Democratic Party is gonna fight back on your behalf. Wilcox says, I will be pursuing all legal avenues to challenge my removal, which violates longstanding Supreme Court precedent. But by getting rid of Wilcox, Trump gave his allies yet another treat, another cookie, more time to essentially not have to deal with the NLRB. There's already vacant seats. He's now gotten rid of the general counsel and a Democratic member, or a member who's been appointed by a Democratic president. So here we are. This is what we're dealing with now.
Yeah, it's an interesting tactic. It could be that he just didn't do his homework on it, which is entirely possible, and didn't realize that he has all these empty seats and he could easily control the board either way. It could be that he knew that, and he knew that it was an illegal action, but he did it because he wanted to show that he's acting quick and he's gonna fire everybody and he's taking action. And so his side loves that he's taking action. Now, if he took legal action, I could understand, because our side never takes action. Our side is blocked by the parliamentarian in a non-parliamentarian system.
No, I mean, look, the Democratic Party loves to point to all of the convenient excuses for why they can't ever do anything on behalf of their base. I don't get that sense from Trump specifically, right? Donald Trump doesn't ask for permission. He does whatever he wants. And yes, he gives the impression that he's working hard on behalf of his voters. That's politics, right? I don't like a lot of what he's doing, especially the moves he's making with the NLRB, but whatever, put that aside. I mean, think about how his voters are feeling. They get the impression that he's working hard. Did we ever get the impression that Biden was working hard on behalf of his voters?
I mean, so let's look at it this way. This has upsides and downsides. So like Trump says, I'll even break the law for you, and MAGA doesn't mind. So I think that the Democratic voters would mind. Maybe I'm not seeing it right, but that's my sense of it. And so, but it would be amazing if Biden was like, I don't care what the law says, I'm fighting for my voters. I mean, I've never seen that from a Democratic politician, at least in my lifetime. I mean, back in the day, FDR, by the way, broke a bunch of eggs to make omelets,
he
right?
did. In fact, at the time, FDR's opponents like to call him a fascist.
LBJ broke a lot of eggs to make omelets, but we got the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, we got Medicaid, we got, we fought poverty and in a lot of ways won. I mean, we're so much better off as a country today than we were back then, partly because of LBJ's actions. But we haven't had a strong, so my point isn't that the Democrats should come in and break the law like Trump. My point is, wouldn't it be amazing if we had balance where someone comes in and actually delivers for their voters without breaking the law? Is it too much to ask for? And by the way, delivers for their, not just their voters, but overall for the American people, and just does popular policies.
Right.
But neither side actually does popular policies. They just do the extremes or nothing. Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.